Right, the heads of 80 major U.S. companies sending an open letter to Congress. They want action on closing the budget deficit and shrinking the national debt. Among those signing it, Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan, Jeff Immelt, GE's guy, Microsoft's Steve Ballmer. Here's part of the letter. The plan should include comprehensive and pro-growth tax reform, which broadens the base, lowers rates, raises revenues, and reduces the deficit. Joining us now is Grover Norquist of Americans for Tax Reform. Grover, you are the paramount opponent of any kind of tax increase. What do you make of that letter?
Well, if you notice, they didn't actually say tax increase.
They didn't.
They said revenue increase. And the Republican position, certainly the taxpayer position, is that if you have more growth, if the economy grows at 3% a year instead of 2% a year, for one decade, you get $2.5 trillion of additional revenue. You want revenue, have a pro-growth tax policy. Take the top rate of 35, not, as Obama wants to do, up towards 44, but down to 25, as Ryan and Romney have talked about.
You approve of raising tax revenues. You approve of that if it is lowering tax rates.
I'm in favor of higher revenue coming from economic growth, not from higher taxes. What Simpson-Bowles has done, this is an attack on the president's position, which is higher marginal tax rates,
right,
not lower marginal tax rates. So it's a real slap in the face to the president. That's helpful.
That's your takeaway from this letter by 80 CEOs.
Now, somebody who wanted to argue, Schumer, for higher taxes, could say, oh, I see revenue, I think they mean tax increases, and then he could design the tax increase he wants. So to a certain extent, the business guys wrote something
They hedged a little, didn't they?
They hedged a lot. They didn't really come down hard. However, lower marginal tax rates is Romney's position. That's the exact opposite of Obama's position. And going for growth as the way to raise revenue, that's exactly the position that the modern Republican Party has put forward. There is only one plan on the table, by the way, that fits the bill of what these 80 CEOs talked about.
Which is?
The Ryan plan, which is passed with every single Republican vote minus 4 guys in the House of Representatives, has the support of the Republican Senate, and in outline form has Romney's position. So they have in fact endorsed the only written plan, which is the Republican plan to reform entitlements, to block grant welfare, as Clinton did with AFDC, but to do it with most of the 185 different welfare programs that the federal government runs, means-tested welfare.
You're comfortable with the way things are going? If Romney gets into the White House, Republicans do well in the Senate, Republicans keep control of the House, tax reform, lower marginal rates, you think it's going to happen?
Oh, absolutely. The reason why it happened, it's not only that Romney says he's for it, but you have a Republican House which has actually voted on this, a real bill in legislative form. They've actually done a budget. The Republicans in the Senate have voted for a real budget. The alternative, there's no Obama budget, except in outline form, no Obama budget that a single Democrat has voted for. Simpson-Bowles, by the way, if you actually read it, most of the numbers are the page numbers, but there are a couple numbers that actually matter. Taking taxes from 18.5% of GDP to 21% of GDP. Over a decade, that is a $5 trillion tax increase. Anyone who tells you they like Simpson-Bowles, start off, you mean the $5 trillion tax increase? I'm surprised. How many members of Congress are unaware of how big a tax increase Simpson-Bowles is?
I want to ask you if the debt is a really big and prominent issue in this election. Yesterday, we looked at the calendar and we looked at the debt clock. We found that in the last 50 days, our outstanding national debt had gone up precisely $200 billion. It's 51 days now, and it's gone up $204 billion. So it is literally $4 billion a day. I think this is the sleeper issue because it's not that prominent in the election campaign. I'm surprised at this, but I don't think it's prominent. And how about you?
Well, the debt and the deficit are another way of saying the explosion of spending over the last 4 years under Obama and Reid and Pelosi. The debt is sort of, they spent so much they couldn't even tax enough to pay for it, and the debt is...
Romney's not pounding that, is he? He's not pounding it.
Well, he's focusing on spending, which I think is more important actually than the deficit, because the spending is all the money they take in taxes plus the stuff they borrow. spending is the total damage the government does to the economy. The debt just shows you how out of whack they are, that they can't even...
The debt is just a number, but when you say, is the government spending your money well? Look at that's something specific that you can hang your hat on rather than just a number.
Well, I get the impression...
They're spending too much and they're wasting it.
But are you satisfied with the way the Republicans and Romney and Ryan are going at this? Are they hard enough?
I think when they speak, they are clear about where they want to go. Interpreted or seen through CBS's explanation, it's a little fuzzy. That's why Romney did better and Ryan did better when they had a debate where, you know, sure, Biden interrupted a bunch of times, but they were able to talk to the American people.
To your point, David, I mean, I think the Republicans and the right and Grover, you're fighting the establishment media, because the message has to be filtered through the establishment media, and it doesn't go through that filter.
Of course, and actually, Romney, to your point, the fact is I think Romney could do more to focus on those spending mistakes, those awful spending things. I mean, Cylinder's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
it's a big iceberg, and Romney's not going there as often as I'd like.
He's emerging as a nice guy, isn't he?
Agreed. I mean, I think he should have flown to Chicago during the teacher strike to show how the Democratic Party cannot stand up to organized labor. They're not with teachers. They're not for education. They're for the teachers' union, which is not the same thing as education. Painfully not the same thing. I think there are ways they could have dramatized it. On the other hand, he's busy winning.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
His advisors are probably going to go, hey, calm your jets, Grover. We're winning. What do you want?
He was characterized by President Obama as a rich, evil, nasty guy. Overly harsh. He'll do you down, you 47%. He doesn't like you. He's countered that image, and he's winning. I mean, what's wrong with that?
A few hours on national TV, unfiltered. Yes, interrupted, but reasonably unfiltered, has destroyed what $300 million in negative ads were supposed to have accomplished.
You think Romney wins?
Yeah.
How many points in the popular vote?
Oh, in the popular vote, by more than 4 at this point. Ohio's moving in the right direction. Florida's looking very good. I mean, it's just, and the national numbers are going well. I mean, obviously, when the women's vote is going as well as it is, the attempt by the Obama administration to slander Romney has failed. It didn't
It's up to your predictions.
Yeah, I've said publicly Romney wins with 5 points. That's a private, personal prediction, but now it's out there, and I'm glad to see that Grover Norquist agrees with me.
Yes. But where do you think I get my information? I watch your show.
No, wait a second. Wait, do you really?
Yeah.
You do?
Really?
On a regular basis?
Yeah.
I am so flattered.
I have to work sometimes.
Grover, I am so flattered.